Hello, Dublin. I've always wanted to say that on stage, being from Dublin. Makes you feel better. Thank you for coming, appreciate it. My name is Glen Holmes. I'm a senior product manager at Workday. For those of you who are not familiar with Workday, we're a cloud provider of HCM and finance software. We are based, our European headquarters are based not far from this building across the river in Smithfield. We employ about 1,000 people there, 60 of which are product managers. So quite a large team there. But today I'm going to talk about a topic that I think all product managers should know, and that is behavioral economics. And in this talk, I'm going to cover 8 principles or heuristics of behavioral economics that product managers can leverage in order to build a better product. So first, understand what is behavioral economics. Well, to understand that, a bit of a history lesson. So economics, as we understand it, if we go back to late 19th century, early 20th century, economics, you went to any university, economics departments sat beside the philosophy department, the psychology department, all of the social sciences were gathered together. So it was very much more behavioral back then. It was kind of part of that social sciences. Late 19th century, there was the advent of what we see as neoclassical economics. So Alfred Marshall kind of started that, and then it diverged. Following on from that, we have what we call Keynesian models. So if anyone studied in college, we remember fondly our supply and demand curves and consumption that we all loved, consumption curves. And then on from that, there was the Chicago School of Economics, which is Milton Friedman, neo-capitalism, that type of approach. Underpinning all that economics and that divergence was the principle of rationality, i.e. that we, the market, us, make decisions based on logic, based on rationality. Okay? So when we want something, we purchase just enough of it. When we want to sell something, or we want to get rid of something, we sell it. And we base that on very logical decisions. Now, around 2008, I suppose, that theory was incredibly flawed, or proven to be flawed, at the global financial crisis. I think it was pretty evident to everybody, non-economists, that our logic was kind of flawed in our decision making. So in about the last 20 years, there's been a renaissance on behavioral economics. So led by psychologists primarily, people you may have heard of, Daniel Kahneman, Amos Tversky, Dan Ariely, more recently Richard Thaler, Robert Schiller, Neriel. And they kind of looked at how we as humans make decisions. And they postulate that we actually aren't rational. We are actually very irrational in our decision making. But we are predictably irrational. We make the same mistakes over and over. The same flawed decision making. So as product managers, it's incumbent upon us to understand how we make decisions and also how our users make decisions when engaging or purchasing our products. So the first heuristic I talked about is the scarcity heuristic. And the scarcity heuristic is quite simple, as most of these heuristics are. It is that we value things that we believe are scarce or exclusive much more than things that we believe aren't, right? That makes sense. But because scarce things are generally valuable. But it's not about what is scarce or exclusive. It's about our perception of what scarce or exclusive is. And a classic example of this, if anyone's read the book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, there was an experiment done on 2 grocery stores in Iowa. Same chain, same week, 2 different grocery stores. In the first store, they had a promotion on Campbell's soup, the cornerstone of the American cuisine. Campbell's tomato soup. And it was a simple promotion. It was 10% off Campbell's soup. In the second store, they had the same promotion, 10% off Campbell's soup, but a slight difference. There was a maximum of 10 cans allowed purchase per person. So there was an exclusivity, a heuristic put in it, okay? In the first store, with no restriction, the average amount of cans bought per consumer was 3. In the second store, the average amount of cans purchased was 7. So once there was an enforced restriction, people believed they were getting a better deal. People believed that actually, this is much better, it's obviously much more valuable if it's scarce, right? So how does that apply to what we do in product management? Anyone remember Product Hunt? I looked at Product Hunt. It's a collaborative community to review products, latest products, both tech and non-tech. But they kind of were looking for people to join the community, and they were looking for people to refer their friends. You know when you sign up for something that says, please refer your friends? We all do that, right? Yeah. So what they've done, they've kind of said that, well, this is an exclusive community. We want a healthy volume of good dialogue. And you're a smart person, aren't you? You're a product manager. You're really smart. And of course, you know lots of smart people. But we'd just like you to invite 2 of the most smartest people. Not 3. Can't invite 3 or 4. Think of the 2 smartest people you know. And they're lucky enough to get invited to this community. When they implemented this heuristic, the amount of referrals by people who joined up for the site exponentially grew. They had much more people being referred to their site. The community numbers grew due to that scarcity. How have I done this? So we all get user feedback, we should, right? We all get, and particularly people, I work in enterprise software, it's kind of sometimes hard, right, to get that feedback, to get enough people in your user groups to provide you feedback. So I was sending emails out to my customers saying, really, you're very valuable. Would you be able to give me some feedback on a feature that we're working on, or a new product, or a new initiative, or prototypes, or whatever? And they kind of went down to the ether, some people mail you back, and generally the same people who always want to give you feedback. So I was having a problem getting feedback. So what I did was that I sent an email saying, hi, very valuable customer. We're running your user feedback sessions. Our first session is oversubscribed. But would you like to be involved in a second session? And I got a lot more replies to be saying, why am I involved in the first session? Am I not valuable enough? What's happened to me? What's the story there? Like, am I not, is there something wrong with me? It just imbibed a lot more. And we did analysis of my inbox. It was just quite crazy. The people, it was quite vitriol for being left out. So people think that by being part of that exclusive group, they feel a lot better. But you've got to make them feel that they're part of that group, okay? Second, who here is a procrastinator? Those of you not putting your hands up are probably procrastinating about putting your hands up, right? Yeah, I'd imagine. Most of us are procrastinators, right? Very few. Nothing makes us more productive than the last 10 minutes. I'm sure lots of you have those lovely burn-down charts that are really like that. No one has those, right? If you look even on a micro level, it's the step, right? Because at the end of the day, people, I'll get my work done. So what you've got to do is you've got to try and limit the amount of procrastination that your users or your stakeholders can imbibe, okay? So how do you do that? Well, we all know this. The kids are down with this, right? The FOMO, the fear of missing out. And that's a psychological kind of condition that we have. And this is implemented in so many products, particularly in consumer side products. So I'm off to South Africa in the summer, and I went to book a hotel, and I looked, and it's in high demand. It's been booked 7 times in the last 24 hours. It's in high demand again. They really want to tell me it's in high demand. They can't emphasize enough how much demand is on there. And see our last available rooms. So I'm there going, oh God, if I don't book this really great deal now, I'm going to lose this, aren't I? Or will I go to another site? Will I go to try find better? Oh God, I could lose this, because look how many people have just booked it in the last 24 hours. And then when I go in, someone just booked it. Geez, someone just booked this. What's going on? It's instilling a fear from, and now that's quite manipulative, and I understand, and I'm not encouraging people manipulate users. But by instilling these type of approaches, think of it even when we're looking to get a decision made by stakeholders. Don't allow them that ability to just make the decision whenever they want. Instill that fear of missing out. When you're looking for feedback, you've got a group of your personas, your stakeholders, and you're kind of trying to get the feedback in the product, and some people are delaying and all like that. Just make sure they know that they're going to miss out if they don't do it, if they don't get back to you when they should, okay? Heuristic 3, naive diversification. Makes sense, limit your users' choices. The more choices we have as human beings, we create a much higher cognitive burden. Despite everything, we don't like options. And giving your users options leads to generally a difficult user experience. I'll explain a little bit more. So that's, I found this online just recently. Now, Apple maybe not so much anymore, this is from 2015, or Google, and your company's app, right? So of course most of us product managers shouldn't have those type of products, okay? But we probably all use products that are similar to that, right? We've got multiple fields and really annoying. Too many choices. It's death by choices, okay? This is an interesting study that was done. So American Apparel, now maybe not so good in bricks and mortar, but online have been quite successful. So in 2012, so I'll give you a use case. I want to buy a t-shirt. I just want to buy a t-shirt. So where do I go? It's a new t-shirt. Definitely want to buy a new one. So do I go to new and now? I'm also a man, I think. So do I go to men? Do I go to vintage? Because I kind of like the vintage, or it's graphic. I want something on my t-shirt. There's 4 specific options there that I have to choose from to buy a t-shirt. That creates a cognitive burden. In 2013, they naively diversified down to 9 options. Now, it's still buying a t-shirt meant that it's new and now. It's still definitely new. I don't want a second-hand t-shirt. And it's men, and it's vintage, and there's a new one. There's collections. There's a part of a collection. What is collections? Do I know? So, April 2015, 7 options. Again, naively diversifying up to the last iteration. They've had subsequent iterations, but from a naive diversification point of view, there's 4 options. Women, men's, kids sale. It's quite simple. I go into men's. Think of a conversation you'd have. Conversational interfaces. I'm a man. I click on men. What do I want next? I want a t-shirt. I go into t-shirt. Then give me the options of t-shirts. Don't give me everything at once. Okay, that's how we naively diversify. When American Apparel, every time they naively diversified, on average, they increased conversion rates by 12%. That's a significant revenue generation activity there. Eventbrite is similar. Eventbrite in 2012, if you went in, you had 5 options. Whoever went to Eventbrite and said, I'm going to try to figure out how it works. I want to click on the how it works link and have a read about how Eventbrite works, because I'm kind of interested in that type of stuff. What do you want to do when you go to Eventbrite? You want to go to an event, or you maybe want to create an event. They're your 2 main use cases, right? So, 2015, create an event, browse events, sign up below. Now, you can go in and browse the site and find out how it works if you want, but it's probably not what most people want to do. Futuristic nudging. So this is prevalent in our everyday lives. So nudging, Richard Thaler is a big proponent of this, if anyone follows him. Nudge theory is basically the ability to enforce behavior implicitly. So i.e. don't tell people what to do or ask them to do. Give them behavioral cues and make them feel like it's their own decision. Sounds quite nefarious and manipulative, but it's quite positive. Here's a classic example. So men should recognize this picture. Women will probably recognize the problem I'm going to talk about. So this is from Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. So Schiphol is a large international hub. So lots of people do layovers. So you're there for 4 hours, 5 hours as a guy, and you decide, I'm going to have a few pints, I'm going to have a few drinks, a few cocktails, long flight to US or Africa or Asia after this. So, thing. And what happened was that in the toilets in Schiphol Airport, men were going to relieve themselves, and their aim was not very good. So the toilets ended up being quite smelly and being a bit disgusting, and then somebody had to clean that up. So the people at Schiphol Airport decided we need to do something about this, and they thought, well, we could put a sign up and say, please aim better, but that compliance may not be very good. So the simple solution they did was actually, they put, if you can see, a ceramic fly in the toilet. So all of a sudden, guys had something to do, a challenge when they were going to the toilet. Can we aim with the fly? Can we get rid of the fly? Problem solved. Literally, people became much more accurate. Not out of being told what they're doing wrong or asked to do something right, but by a simple behavioral change initiated by nudging. This is another classic example. There's a great video on this. This is a stairwell in South Korea, in a subway in South Korea. Now, to the right is what you can't see is an escalator. And anyone's been to Korea or Korea, the food is fantastic. It's amazing, but it's deep fried. As my wife said, you could deep fry a sock and it'll probably taste good, right? But it's really deep fried good. It's fantastic food, but very heavy. So they have, like most developed countries, they have an obesity problem. So they're looking to get their citizens more active. Now, beside this, there's an escalator. Now, before they implemented what's on here, everybody took the escalator. Everybody in the subway took that. There was very few people on the stairwell. The traffic on the stairwell was really, really low. So what they decided to do, with the help of a behavioral economist, was they put on each step the amount of calories burned when you take each step. And in Korean, there's some kind of motivational quotes there. And so they didn't tell people to take, didn't force people, didn't shut down the escalator. They just kind of gently encourage people that this is the value, this is the return on your investment you get. And if you watch the video of this, you can Google online, over a space of 7 days, the traffic of going up the stairwell. And you see people coming up and going, well, I'll just do that, I'll go this way. It make me feel a bit better today. So the positive reinforcement there of a behavior was quite, yeah, it was really good. It wasn't malevolent or, as I say, nefarious. It was quite a positive thing on the outcome. So people can be nudged. Classic, Facebook. So this is quite small, but at the top it's telling me, add my phone number to help secure my account, because Facebook are very, very worried about me. They want my account to be very secure. So just add my phone number because, you know, it's much more secure, Glenn. So, and the classic notification icon, that itch we can't scratch, or we have to scratch, right? Notifications. When was the last time you clicked on a notification for anything and went, God, I'm glad I did that. That's changed my life. This is the best thing that's happened to me today. They're normally not, but what do? We still do it. They're compelling their nudge. Now, it's clever though, and it is something that we imbibing in products or putting into integrating with products do help our users as well. This is a bit more malevolent, so thank you for upgrading our adware security. So you see the update, the free stuff, kind of looks like it's disabled, doesn't it? If you go to that site, it's not. You can get it for free. How much money do they make out of free stuff? So it's kind of prompting us towards upgrade. Now that is a kind of disingenuous kind of way of implementing nudge. But think about in our products when we want people to follow workflows or produce tasks. What you need to do is you need to kind of give them a path to completion, and illuminate a path to completion in the UX world, I think they call it. So you need to nudge people along in your product through visual cues to get through tasks. Don't put text up to say, please click here next. If you have that text in your product, you're not doing a good job, trust me. Get rid of it and change the design. Okay, number 5, people are crap at determining value. Any wine connoisseurs here? Any wine? No one ever had a hand up for wine connoisseur because it feels nonsense. I like my wine. I'm by no means an expert. I like my wine. But I had the luxury of being in France last year, and I noticed this, and it got me thinking. I was down in Cotes Du Rhone, beautiful part of France, which is most parts of France are. And a bottle of wine on the left, Chateauneuf-du-Pape. Now, if you buy a good bottle of Chateauneuf-du-Pape, now not from a discount, I'm not saying they're bad in discount supermarkets or anything like that, but a good off license with a good bottle of Chateauneuf-du-Pape, it's about €75. You know, it's expensive, but it is for a good bottle. Cotes Du Rhone, fantastic wine, brilliant wine, amazing wine. Good bottle of that, again, you can buy it cheap enough in discount, but a good bottle of Cotes Du Rhone is about €25. Okay. Can anyone here even tell me the difference between Chateauneuf-du-Pape and Cotes Du Rhone? No one's ever, even people I know wine. Well, I happen to be in that area, and the difference is a ditch. You stand in Cotes Du Rhone Village, you'll stand on a ditch, and that winery is Chateauneuf-du-Pape, and that winery is Cotes Du Rhone. Now, it's the same soil, right? Same weather. Now it's east-west. They've all got east-west, north, south-facing slopes. But the people who own the wineries of Chateauneuf-du-Pape are much, much better at convincing us that Chateauneuf-du-Pape is a better wine. Now, I'm sure this wine connoisseurs here will tell me it's a better wine, and I wouldn't disagree with you because I'm not. But why are they able to do that? They don't go into the world of competing on price. They look at value. Okay? So we all make these decisions. So I'll ask this gentleman here, okay? So I meet you in a couple of weeks from now, okay? And you're walking around. Are you from? Do you live in Dublin? Do you live here? Well, I'm in Holland, right? And I meet you, and you're buying a shirt, right? And I spot you, and I go, oh, how you doing? What's your name? Stuart. So I say, hey, Stuart, Glenn from industry. How you doing? You go, oh, geez, hey, how you doing? I say, it's a lovely shirt you're buying. It's €50. And I say to you, just letting you know, if you just go about a mile down the road, there's a discount store. That exact shirt is half price. Would you go to buy it? Yeah. Probably would, yeah. Yeah, it's half price. 25, 50 quid, €25. Most of us would, right? I meet you following week. Real coincidence, right? Because I'm still in Holland. I'm loving it. And I meet you in electrical retailer, and you're buying a MacBook. Not telling you would, but you're buying a MacBook. And it's €2,000. And I say to you, Stuart, hey, Glenn, industry. Oh, you again. And I say, if you go about a mile down the road, there's a discount electrical retailer, and that same laptop is €1,975. Would you bother going down? Would you go? Would most of us for 2,000 said, we probably generally in the sizes, we wouldn't, right? For €25. But it's exact same effort for the exact same return. It's a mile down the road for €25 savings. But we tend to think relatively in value, not exact. Because it's a €2,000 item, it's €25. You know, it's 2,000 I'm spending. We don't think about the cost-benefit analysis. And that's fundamental in product management, right? You know, we value, think about we go to our customers and we're prioritizing and we're doing, if anyone does relative weighted benefit, the value, cost, penalty, how are we assessing that value? How do we think about it? Because generally we're pretty crap at assessing value. So think about that when you are actually thinking about i.e. what goes into your products, plus how you're pricing your products. I worked with some startups, and you know the freemium low cost model seems to be what most people go for. Because we can't start charging a lot for a product. Uber is a class example. Uber went actually first in the niche exclusive market. They had town cars that were really expensive. That was their first market. They didn't go mass market with what they have now. They actually pivoted into that market after having an exclusive town car service. So don't always go for low value when you're pricing your product, and then whatever you're putting in your product, think about the value, think about the cost-benefit analysis. Okay, data-driven product management. Who here does data-driven product management? Is it one? I'm sure most of us. We look at data and we kind of worship data, and it's really good. Data is a fantastic, fantastic thing in order to inform us to make decisions. In a company like mine, we have so much data, helps us immeasurably to make product decisions. But we are crap at reading data. Okay, we are poor. We have a poor grasp of probability. Seasoned mathematicians in very esteemed universities struggle with probability and looking at randomness and patterns. It's just known to be a really hard part of mathematics. The map you see there is a map of London. What's plotted on it is bomb sites during the Blitz. Okay, so like any nation during the war, the British intelligence were absolutely obsessed with weeding out German spies. Obsessed, like every other nation was. So the intelligence, now these are the guys from Cambridge, women from Oxford, all of the cream of the intelligentsia were working in British intelligence. And they start plotting the bomb sites, the Luftwaffe bomb sites. Then they found there's actually patterns forming here, okay? Because if you lived in Notting Hill, if you lived in North Kensington, in Kilburn, there's no bombs being dropped. So that kind of led them to a conclusion that why would the Germans bomb their most prized assets? Of course they wouldn't. They'd make sure they didn't bomb the areas where the prized assets lived. So if you lived in Kilburn or North Kensington during the war and you ever had any association with anything German, if you ate a bratwurst, you were under suspicion. So they would come, the police would come and they would arrest you without evidence. They would intern you. You don't hear a lot of this. They would intern you, put in a prisoner of war camp, possibly tortured, thinking that. And neighbours were very sceptical of each other. So that keep calm, carry on mentality wasn't really prevalent in these neighbourhoods. So after the war, a Croatian-American mathematician called William Feller, who is a kind of godfather of probability, came along and he looked at these maps and he ran simulations, mathematical simulations on them, and found out that these were nothing more than random patterns. There was no pattern in the data. Okay? He claimed that if you ran this, if the Luftwaffe went over and bombed again, they just randomly dropped. They were getting shot at 10,000 feet by anti-aircraft missiles. They weren't that accurate. They just wanted to drop their bombs and get out of there. It's London, do it, let's go. So naturally, the inferred pattern was actually incorrect, and it caused an awful lot of people a lot of despair, okay, incorrectly. And think about how we look at data as product managers. We look at patterns, and we find patterns based a lot on our cognitive bias. I ran a survey with my customers when I got my most recent job in Workday. I was in there a week, and I sent out a survey to my users, actually. And I said, you know, there was lots of questions on it, but one of the questions was, can you tell me what you like least about our product? And of the first 8 responses, 5 of them were pointing to a specific area. So I went in straight away, and I know this stuff, right? And I went in straight away and looked and went, yeah, that looks horrendous. So I started looking and kind of think about how I might design it, start setting up sessions with people so we can work on better design. I started talking to the engineers about, I've got to write user stories. And then the subsequent 196 responses that came in, it was mentioned twice, that area. I rushed based on a pattern of incomplete data to make a decision that my engineers now were actually accosted with doing. So be careful about the data you read. Understand the data in all its context before we make any product decisions. Number 7, how you frame something. So there's a heuristic called endowed progress, and this is really important. So this is I think Neariel did this experiment with coffee punch cards. So I love coffee loyalty cards. I think they're great. I don't know if anyone else does. And he did an experiment again with 2 coffee shops of the same chain. In the first coffee shop, the loyalty card was like this, right? So it was buy 9 coffees, get the 10th one free. In the second coffee shop, it was buy 11 coffees and get the 12th one free. But the difference was they punched the first 2 stamps in the second store. So the completion rate was 82% higher in the store that had the first 2 stamps than the other store. There's a thing called a sunk fallacy cost in endowed progress. When we think we've invested in something, we're much likely to complete a task. Okay? An issue I worked on software that had a workflow in it. It was 6 steps. So the heuristic I used first was naive diversification. So I went out to 5 steps. Well done, Glenn. And what we did, it would have 5 steps. So it would tell the user there's 5 steps. We had a dropout rate after step 2 of about 65%, I think 64%. It was massive. People weren't completing this workflow. Just couldn't, it was onerous. So what we did was we put in a progress bar, which is called the Zeigarnik effect. So a progress bar, because if you ever do a survey, people are much more likely to complete surveys when you've got a progress bar. So we put in a progress bar, and we front-loaded the 2 first tasks with so they had to get through a lot of things in the first 2 tasks, a lot of fields to fill in, and that type of thing in the first 2 tasks, and then the last 3 were easy. But the progress bar after 2 tasks told them they were at 58%, which they were. But our completion rate then for the next 3 steps went really high. We got up to about 72% completion rate that task. Just by heavy loading and giving people implementing the endowed progress heuristic. So people felt, well, I'm 56% through after 2 steps. So I might as well finish it, right? It's nearly there, But people never gave that feedback. So if you're implementing anything like that in a product, give users feedback and heavy load the first couple of tasks in a workflow. Lastly up, I'm going to talk about the jargon heuristic. And this is something where, as tech people, we're always we're kind of prone to, which is, well, I love this word, grandiloquence. It's one of my favorite words. It's grandiloquence is the lofty, extravagant, colorful, pompous, or bombastic style, manner, or quality, especially in language. I.e., it is using large or esoteric words when smaller words will suffice, right? So grandiloquence itself is a grandiloquent word. So it's self-referencing, I like that. So basically, we work in terms API or, X509 certification, all these type of technical buzzwords. And we have conversations with our stakeholders all the time with these, and it makes us we're intelligent, we're cool people, we know all about this stuff. And our users could be looking at us going, what are you talking about? So, and even within products, the content that we use, I think product managers are kind of pretty poor at looking at the kind of words and content in their products. We love features, we love designs, we love how it flows, but the actual words that go into our products, how many of us really spend a lot of time thinking about them? Classic example was Fidelity Investments, and Fidelity Investments is a massive American insurance company or finance company. I was at a talk by their head of UX a couple of years ago, and they had spent millions on redesigning their website, and they were all launching new products. And they've lots of product managers and huge UX focus. And they've done all their A/B testing, they've done all the sorts of testing, and everyone was, this is really good, it's really easy to find, everything is discoverable. So they had a certain product called a 401k. So the Americans here would definitely know what 401k is. So the equivalent is kind of pensions or annuities in Europe. And when they did the testing, they went through, can you find where to sign up for it? So you could sign up online and manage your 401k. And this was really, really, from market research, this would be a really great product to have. They launched it, and there's very little sign up, really poor. They couldn't understand this. They spent in the region of tens to hundreds of thousands of euro on user testing to figure out what was the problem here. Everything came back, it's discoverable, it's easy, yes, I would buy it. They had an intern in who was a technical writer, and she looked at when they were talking about the problem, she happened to be there, and she just looked and she said, maybe it's the wording. And he said, what do you mean? So where 401k sign-up existed was risks and investments. And she said, I think the word risk there might be, there's a connotation to risk. This is what I'm going to be investing my money in, and you're telling me it's kind of risky? And they're like, okay. So what they did was that they took it out, risk investments, and put investments in 401k. And what do you think happened? Simple removing of risks increased the sign-up rates for their 401ks. The connotation of that word, subliminally, cognitively, was making people kind of second guess really what they want to do. Should I really invest in this or should I not? This is something I just put in because I found this is honest, I found this on Sunday, and I didn't realize that parking machines in Dublin are now giving motivation messages. I thought this was great. I was like, oh great. You know, this is a really good algorithm. It's spotted that I'm a bit of a disaster and told me change is possible. But what's happened there most likely is that either the product manager of that system hasn't really thought about the language, right? Change is, who says change is possible? You know, other than motivational papers, right? You'd say, yeah, change available or you'd say nothing, and then if there's no change, the system, the screen will tell you there's no change available, make sure it's exact coins. But change is possible. Or either it's been left to a developer. And we do that a lot, right? We leave developers, or we don't think about the simple things. So I thought this on Sunday. I was like, I've got to put that in the talk. That's amazing. I felt better when I went home. I did feel better. So that's it. So to recap, everybody, the scarcity heuristic. That enforces a bias where users perceive scarcity or exclusivity as something desirable. Try limit your users' ability to procrastinate, so instill FOMO. Enforce naive diversification, so limit your choices. So nudging, use positive reinforcement and indirect suggestions to achieve non-forced compliance. Determine your own value. Don't always try to compete on price. Your value is more than your price, remember? Avoid the clustering illusion. Okay, so understand that we're not good at reading data, but make sure we have all of the data in all of the context. Use the endowed progress heuristic to encourage users to complete tasks. Our software is probably very task-based. And ensure that you use the correct language. It's very important with jargon. So folks, that's it from me. My name is Glen Holmes, and I'll thank you for your attention. Cheers.